Hello and welcome to this morning's Plant and Asset Management webinar. My name is Dave and I'm here with our product specialist Mandy. Say hello, Mandy there.
Hello.
We will be taking you through the three most common pains we hear from health and safety professionals that encounter when they with plant and asset management. Just a quick note to let you know that you're all muted, but we want to make this webinar as engaging as possible for you. So feel free to send any questions you may have throughout the webinar. I will be casting towards Mandy, who will be taking you through all content. How you send the questions is just in the questions tab in the bottom right hand side of your screen. So without further ado, I'll pass you on to Mandy.
Cheers, thanks Dave. So as he mentioned this there, we're going to take a look at the three most common pains of your plant and asset management. So what does this mean for most clients that I would speak with there in relation to their day-to-day activities? So first and foremost, they would say that a lot of their activities in regards to plant and asset management would be manual processes. So a lot of paper records, inspections, filing those away, trying to pull those back at another time. Managing maybe all of your inspections and checklist schedules through Excel spreadsheets that could be spread out across the business depending on how many sites or divisions you're managing. And then finally, if you've got corrective or preventative actions in relation to those, that you'd typically be doing that through kind of verbal instruction or through emails, which can be great in some instances, but obviously not so great if you're looking to kind of track those down the line and maybe set some KPIs against them. So first and foremost, manual processes have this way of kind of creating a lack of visibility or oversight for a business in the sense of you're not always sure exactly what's going on in different areas. Obviously, as a health and safety manager or an ops manager, you can't be everywhere all at once. So you might always feel like you're kind of playing catch up or that you're lost on these day-to-day activities, which are taking away the value of what you can actually bring to your organization. So how we kind of call some of these pains out, first and foremost, would be through time management. So as I called out there, those inspection schedules could be spread out across the business. They might not even be set down on paper anywhere, so you're kind of playing catch up, doing them when you see that they need to actually be done. And as a result, your equipment could be actually falling out of compliance unnoticed, which is obviously a risk or a danger to the safety of that equipment and obviously your employees. Then finally, if you're doing your daily checks or your weekly checks on your pieces of plant or asset, those might have to be done on a paper checklist and then obviously input into a wider system if that's how you pull your reports. And following through from that, any actions that are raised during that period, they can be really difficult to track. So how we think we can take away some of those pains would be a couple of simple processes. So first and foremost, in a very configurable context, you can create as many different plant or asset records to track really a range of different materials. I've obviously shown here a forklift, but people would use this for fire alarms, fire extinguishers, even their lifts to get the maintenance done on it. It's really open source to yourself and you determine what you're tracking. But first and foremost, obviously, you're going to have one go-to area where you can check all of the different areas on your particular piece of plant or asset. And obviously, in regards to kind of your time management, you can track all of their scheduled inspections in one easy-to-use tab. So by clicking on that little tab, what we're actually going to be able to see is a schedule for all of our upcoming inspections, daily checks, weekly checks, what have you. And what the system is going to be able to track for you is who has this been actually assigned out to, what particular due date and status as a result that this particular inspection has got, and then what it's actually related to. So the most important thing here is that it will actually relate back to the originating piece of plant or asset, meaning that you actually don't have to go through the process of attaching this inspection once it's completed back to your piece of equipment. It'll automatically relate that to within the system. And in doing so, essentially what you'd be able to do is obviously you can do your paper checks if that's the way that it works best for yourself. But what a lot of clients find the best value from our perspective is using mobile tools. So having a tablet or a smartphone enabled with our audits and inspections application, which can simply guide them through their daily check or their inspections through a number of configurable question templates that you can set yourselves. And there's no restriction to how many different types of questions and answers that you're asking, nor restriction on the number of templates there. So your user can simply input all of the information. They can tag images or pieces of documentation that might be relevant, add comments, and then you can actually even capture an electronic signature. And by doing so, when they send this report back, what's actually going to happen is that finalized report will trigger for approvals or however the structure is that you look for yourselves. And then once approved and completed, it will log against your particular piece of equipment, thereby resetting your particular schedules for the plant and asset inspections. Now the next pane that we typically look at would be a general compliance overview. So as I called out there before, it's pretty hard to keep track of, thousands of inspections or maintenances or what have you. So really having a very simple and easy to use stoplight system, so red, amber, green, is a tool that a lot of our clients find useful. Keeping your information in these kind of paper records or in different file folders all over the business makes it hard to find and leads obviously to outdated information being in use. And then finally, without that kind of easy access to reporting or maybe integration with other areas of your business like near miss and incident reporting, you kind of are at a loss to understand where to spend your time and resources. So how do you actually prevent these systems or instances from occurring? So what we'll actually touch on here is a couple ways that the system actually integrates with a number of different areas. So first and foremost, if I've just got a really simple kind of scope that I'm looking at here for my number of pieces of equipment in the field, what you can immediately see is a red, amber, green status there. And essentially I can tell the system how many inspections, daily checks, maybe annual maintenances that I want this piece of equipment to have. And the system is automatically going to track against that particular due date on the schedule that I've set and flag this up to my plant or asset manager. So in advance of this particular, say, monthly inspection going to the red status, a number of email notifications will be triggered out, thereby making the person aware that, in fact, this actually needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. You can also associate a risk assessment with this piece of plant or asset. So as a risk assessment goes out of date, so does the red, amber, green status, making sure that you just have all the tools at your disposal to keep everything in compliance. Now, if an incident was to occur that involved a piece of equipment on your site, using this simple drop-down menu, you could simply tag the piece of equipment for that particular site, department, or division, tag that into the incident event, and then what's actually going to happen is as that investigation progresses, it's going to be tracked against this piece of equipment. So you're not going to have individual pieces of, incident reports and whatnot floating all over. Essentially, there will be one incident report, but that will be shared to various areas of your system. So in this particular situation, you can see here, I actually can view the status of an incident report that was involving this particular ladder. So I could click on this particular incident report and it will take me right back to the originating report. And maybe after, say, several of these incidents happening, I might move this ladder out for fit for use and remove it from my stock. I can also pull compliance snapshots. So I can simply pull reports and drill down to these reports. So there again, different divisions, different sites, different maybe areas within the business. I can filter this information down to some pretty specific areas, so even the individual that would be using this piece of equipment, and filter this down and actually get a very quick and easy report that will tell me if they're compliant or they fit for use and just a general overview on the information. I can actually subscribe to this report as well, so I could get this directly to my inbox on a monthly or a weekly basis without me even having to access the system. Now finally, action management is kind of the piece that ties all of this together. So it's all well and good that we're keeping in compliance, that we are doing our inspections, we are doing our maintenances, but unless we're actually doing our corrective or preventative actions as a result, it's not going to give us the benefit in becoming proactive. So when we're looking at a manual process, again, you're following up by emails and phone calls, you don't have a way of actually tracking who's done what within the organization. And as a result, the reporting on the risks can be quite difficult. So first and foremost, we can help this situation through an easy-to-use dashboard. This dashboard can, there again, be on a site-by-site basis, a division-by-division basis, or if you're the health and safety manager of a very large organization, you'd actually be able to take an overview for the entire organization there. But essentially, you'd be able to have live information feeding into yourself quite quickly and easily. Now, to issue an action out in the organization is a very simple process. So a number of customizable drop-downs where you can actually say what the language, the priority, the classification of this action would be. You can set these into motion against a particular due date and even set a repeating schedule. So very much similar to your scheduling for your weekly or daily checks where you can have them repeating and the system will just automatically send out those reminders. Very much the same with your actions. So you'd be able to set this action into place. An email notification will go out to the employee, letting them know that they actually have to complete it on this schedule. If, in fact, this action goes overdue or isn't being actioned on the timeline you've set, additional notifications can filter out or escalate throughout the organization. And then finally, what you can always do is you can track the number of actions in regards to a certain piece of equipment. So you can see there, this really acts as my whole profile for the piece of equipment. I can kind of see everything that's going on with my plant in one centralized spot. So by clicking on my Actions Arising tab, I'll actually be able to see all of the previous actions in relation to this piece of equipment, thereby giving me instant oversight to what's going on in the organization. Now what this means for you as a health and safety individual or potentially maybe the leader of an organization is that you're going to be better equipped to prove your duty of care. So first and foremost, your employees will be safer. They'll be working on equipment or with pieces of equipment that are inspected, they've been repaired, on time, on schedule, and you can feel confident in that. Second, obviously, you're protecting yourself against the likelihood of a potentially dangerous incident from occurring as a result of potential equipment not being kept up to maintenance standards. And then finally, the financial implications of that. So if you have an incident that occurs on your site, what will be the knock-on effects by way of potential reputational damage that will affect, obviously, your business growth in the future or obviously personal injury claims that are arising. So obviously all of these filtering into your overall proof of duty of care. And that's really the 3 panes of our plant and asset management.
Yeah, that's great, Mandy. Thank you so much for taking us through that whole webinar. We have 2 questions so far. So again, feel free to send over any questions you may have. We really want, as I said, to make this webinar as engaging as possible for you, so you come out of it with a few notes. So first question I have is, right, I've an attendee here who has tons of plant records, and just wondering how is he going to import those records into the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So our customer success team, one of the things that they'd be able to provide would be a CSV template, which would essentially marry up your information with our own system. So instead of you having to manually input all of these pieces of equipment, there can be a one-time very large download of all of these pieces of equipment into the system, and really then all you would need to do is attach any additional pieces of information like images or documentation that you think would be relevant. So a big time saver if you're looking to move systems.
In terms of implementation, how long, like if you were to implement, like if you decided to go with the plant module, how long would you usually think it'd take for that implementation process to?
It can be very, very quick. So our CS team, I mean, there's really, because we are a cloud-based solution, it's very quick. The system is there basically ready to use off the shelf. So it would just be a matter of that one-time data download, probably a couple of hours just of admin just to make sure that the data is exactly the way that you're looking for, schedule out those inspections and those audits. I mean, realistically, if you're just looking to implement something like this, you could be up and going within a number of weeks, depending on obviously the size of the organization, but typically the process is quite fast.
Perfect. Yeah, so last question I have, I don't think I have any more, is how do you track actions against certain divisions in an organization?
Yeah, good question. So within the action creation tool, which your high-level admin would actually be able to use, you can set a number of different drop-downs that are configured to your own business. So what those drop-downs will feed into is it could be reporting groups, it could be classifications, it could be priorities, but all of those drop-downs will enable you then on the back end to pull reports. So a lot of organizations would use certain drop-downs to tag those actions against certain areas of the business, and then they can extract metrics and analytics against those specific tags.
Perfect, thank you, Mandy. We have another question here. Is it possible to integrate a safety critical status against equipment?
That's a really good question. I'm not exactly sure, and that's probably something we would have to go back to the lads in the customer success team. Maybe if the person that asked that question can give us a bit more information, and we can go back to the customer success team and get an answer to them after the webinar here.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's all the questions we may have. Yeah, and as I said, thank you for your attention today, and thank you for some really good questions that were raised up. Just to give you just a brief insight, is this webinar is actually recorded, so we will be sending this off as a recording to you, hopefully in the afternoon. And this is part of a series of webinars that we have each month. So we will be sending out the invites to all registries, as well as just keep an eye out on our social network. We're highly active on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and Facebook. So keep an eye out for any of the content that we have. We also have white papers and blog posts on various issues such as ISO 45001, as well as near-miss reporting. So yeah, if you have any questions, again, feel free to send them over, and we have it. You can send any questions in via our chat facility on our website, or via any of the corresponding emails that you have from any of the webinar communications. So yeah, again, thanks very much for your attention, and hope you have a great day.